Hi everybody, I'm Martin, and in this little video we're going to be talking about the speaking parts of the exam for the first certificate and Cambridge Advanced exam. Now, doing the speaking can make people very nervous, so I'm going to explain what happens in the exam and give you a couple of tips that hopefully will help you out when you do it. So we're going to begin with the first part. In total there are 4. The first part is the interview, and in this part you speak alone with the examiner, although your partner will be in the same room. What happens? This part is really just to warm you up. So if you're very nervous, the examiner does know this, and if you make a few mistakes, it doesn't matter too much. I can't tell you exactly what the questions will be, but I can give you an idea of what you should do to prepare yourself. The examiner will ask you questions about different things: hobbies, work, your education, sports, things you like, things you don't like, holidays, and your future plans. Now, what happens if you don't understand the examiner's question? And this could happen very easily, especially if you're nervous. Don't answer the first thing that you think of. If you're not sure, tell the examiner. Say, could you repeat that please? It doesn't matter, you would do it in your own language, wouldn't you? Then, relax, answer the questions, just as you would in your own language. Not too short, not too long, but make sure that you don't only answer yes or no. That's not good enough, okay? So give them an answer. This part of the exam in theory should last about 4 minutes, but very often it's a little less, okay? Then you move on to part 2. Part 2 is called the long term. In this part of the exam, you work alone, but your partner's in the same room. What happens is, the examiner will give you 2 photographs. Now they may give it to you first or your partner first. I don't know that. But let's imagine in this case you're given the 2 photographs. The examiner will ask you to compare the photographs and say. Now, there will be a question that you have to answer. You can see the question. It's at the top of your photographs. So let's go back. They'll ask you to compare, not describe. So if you have 2 photographs and there's let's say, some people in a cafe, what you shouldn't do is tell them, well, this person is wearing a yellow shirt, black trousers, etc. No, you have to compare between the 2 photographs. A good idea when you're doing this is to begin with both photos show and find something in common, and then say, whereas, which means while, it shows a contrast, something different. So imagine you have 2 photographs, a photograph of somebody by a river and another one in the mountains. You could say both photographs show people outside. In the first photograph there are people spending their day by a river, whereas in the second we can see some people walking through the mountains. A good way to prepare yourself for this when you come in is you have about 15 seconds, 10 seconds to look at the photographs. Think of question words. Where, when, why, and try and answer with this. When you've compared, you should answer a question. Okay? A standard question may be something like, why do you think that people are enjoying themselves here? Or are they enjoying themselves? Something like that. This part of the exam takes 1 minute. When you finish, your partner will be asked another question which lasts for 30 seconds. In this part of the exam, the question will be relating to the photograph, but you don't have to compare or anything. Just think, how many sentences can you say in 30 seconds? Not that many, so it goes quite quickly. So, answer, give a brief answer, some sentences. it's not so difficult. And then what happens? Well, vice versa. Your partner will be given 2 photographs and you will answer a 30-second question. Then you'll move on directly to part 3. This is called the collaborative task. Now, in this case, you and your partner have to work together. You'll be given a spider web chart. This will have a question in the middle and different legs going off to bubbles with prompts, things to help you. How do you do this? You're given 2 minutes for you and your partner to answer the question using the prompts. Let's imagine the question is, why do children enjoy doing something? Or why would this be the best idea for children in school? And you've got prompts, okay? And you have to talk about each of these prompts, giving your opinions, which one would be good or why they'd use these in these cases. What you have to remember here is you're being tested on your ability to interact with each other. So you should make sure that you and your partner speak around 50-50. Okay? It's not good if one of you dominate this part of the exam. And in fact, you can be penalised for this. So with the 5 prompts that you're given, you should try to speak about all of them. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. If you reach the 3rd one and you've been speaking well and interacting together, then you'll do well. Think of it as a game of tennis. One of you speaks, the next one speaks. All about each prompt. Don't miss any out. You both speak about each one and move on. Then what happens? The examiner will stop you and ask you another question. It would be something like, which do you think is the best alternative or the best choice here? Something like that. And you and your partner now have 1 minute to try and agree on which one will be the best, the most difficult, or something like that. Well, if your partner begins and you agree with your partner, I suggest that you don't just say, I agree. You tell them, yeah, you agree, but you give an alternative as well. You say, but maybe this is good. What you must remember in all of this part of the exam is do not stop until the examiner tells you to stop. Okay? Relax, answer the questions, interact with each other. And then finally, we move on to part 4. Part 4 is related to part 3, but in this case the examiner will speak to you and your partner at the same time, or just you and move on to your partner. I can't tell you for sure. This depends on the examiner. But they'll ask you questions which have some relation to the photographs. Let's say in part 3, you have prompts related to history. It could be related to history and they could ask you, do you think it's important for children to learn history at school? Do not only answer with yes or no, because the examiner will say, why? Of course. In that case, immediately tell them why. Yes, I think it's important. Because, and explain why. Finally, remember that the exam takes 14 minutes. Just over, maybe. It's 14 minutes of your life, it's nothing. And the examiners want you to pass. They're not looking to foul anybody. And it doesn't matter if you make mistakes, because we make mistakes in our own languages. I'm sure I've made a couple of mistakes in this video. Who cares? Just try and be as fluent as you can, confident as you can. Use body language as well, because the examiners like that. Because in real life, you don't have conversations with people like this, do you? Hello, how are you? I'm fine. No, you move your body, intonation. This is what the examiner's looking for. They're not looking for you to use words that we've never heard of before. You don't have to do that. So, prepare yourself. Have in mind what each part entails. This is important, that when you enter the examining room, you know what's going to happen. You'll do well, don't worry. Good luck. See you next time.